text me to say that
Oh, I see.
you see it.
Okay.
Don't see anybody?
Please.
All right.
I think it's now dropping.
Okay.
It had you waiting, so they were waiting.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. We're good to go. That's my bad, y'all.
No problem. Hi, everybody. I'm sorry. I was a little confused as to what was going on, so I was trying to figure it
Okay.
out.
All right.
Hey, Carly.
Hey, Fifi, how you doing? Hi,
How you
North.
doing?
I'm doing good.
Ben, is there
So,
feedback
yeah.
from you guys?
I hear a
No,
little
everything's good.
chirp.
Good? Yeah, it's like chirp, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get over it.
Look
How
at
are you in the
Yeah.
chat? I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, guys.
everybody. Jesse Dory Dan's up in the place. Jay Smith, Mamba, Tactical. What's up? What's up?
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, Zach's in there. But I was going to say, since, I've been in healthcare, yada, 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 but I want to increase my training level in preparedness. So is it possible to take that 101 and 102 course in the same time frame, like a weekend, or how does that work?
Absolutely. So the course was originally designed as a 2-day course. It's evolved to a 3-day course, but we split it up into a 101, 102 for the purposes of people being able to afford it.
Okay.
So if you have the option now to take essentially the 101, which if you leave with the 101 and don't come back to 102, you still learn all the life-threatening interventions, all the things you need to know for everyday life, car wreck, boating accident, hunting accident, maybe a range accident,
Gotcha.
somewhere in a normal environment. You'll walk away knowing the principles and the basics to still be able to do things, the most important things to increase the survivability and the outcome of any accident or injury. Now, for someone like you or anybody that's experienced or have taken 101 already, you'll roll smoothly right into 102, where we'll take all those same concepts, principles, and apply them to the tactical setting and environment. That's with all the considerations of being in an austere environment, being in a under fire situation or fully involved threats. You'll apply these same principles, but with different considerations, very importantly, different considerations. So yeah, if you wanted to take the entire course, you could register for 101, 102. They're done back to back, usually a Saturday or a Sunday, or you can just complete half of it and then come back at a different time, different month. We'll remember you. As a matter of fact, we require anybody that's a beginner, doesn't have any basic understanding of these interventions, to take 101 first, just to get brushed up and ready so they can be abreast with everybody else, because it goes fast. 102 is tense.
Okay.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
That's good. That's good to know.
And I always like to maintain that, basic skill set. I've taken martial arts as well for a number of years, and it always comes down to basic form number one. How well can you do basic form number one? So even if you're a grandmaster, you always practice basic form number one.
Well, absolutely. Brilliance in the basics. That's what separates us, is brilliance in the basics.
There we go.
Okay, so yeah, y'all go out and check them guys out at North, Florida Tactical, and that's some good stuff to have, man, because a lot of us don't have areas to go to know what you actually do into a case of emergency. Life savings is more, taking a life and saving a life is two different things.
Absolutely. Just to touch on that, if most people that are dealing with firearms are trying to defend themselves, or taking courses and classes to defend themselves, so they're kind of one in one. If you can, if you're expecting to possibly need to defend yourself, then it's very likely that you'll also need to plug a hole, because bullets go both ways. So if they're coming at you, a lot of people kind of stop and freeze when the crisis happens. They're good to go up until the blood starts coming and ugly stuff starts showing up, and it's bullets do terrible things to your bodies, especially visibly to see. A lot of people freeze at that point, and what we're finding is that a lot of people could have made it survive. Their survivability rates would be increased if they knew what to do in that 1 to 3 minutes after a crisis happens. You greatly increase survivability, and that's what we do. We make sure that during a crisis, medical emergency, that you are the reason that they survive. Your family, your friends, your team, everybody. And that's what we got into it for initially, is because we wanted to be the guys to make sure that our family and friends were okay. God forbid if something ever happens to them. I asked myself the other day this question, and I would ask you guys the same thing. What's the worst thing that you could imagine happening? Any worst? Throw something out.
Family members, seriously injured, and me not being prepared or ready to handle it. That's the
not
worst.
able to help your loved ones.
That's
your friends, your family.
Yep, that's the conclusion I came to as well. Nothing would be worse than being there and being able to do something and not being able to do something at the same time, because I don't have the tools, the equipment, and the training to fall back on in the event of an emergency. So that's what we do it for.
So saying that, what's your target demographic, or who you're designing your course for? Who should be going and taking that course, age-wise? Who should be going to that course?
Everybody, every age group. Any age group that you have a loved one in, whether it be a child, a grandparent, a spouse, a co-worker, everybody should take this, because when accidents happen, you never know who they're going to happen to. And it might be the responsibility of your spouse or even your kid. I like to give an example. I was so part of my background is I was an 8404 combat corpsman with First Battalion 4th Marines, and my job was to make sure that those guys were okay and they made it back home safe. But thanks to the training that they received, TCCC, the same thing that we taught back then, they actually used that training to save me.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. They took over and did my job to save me. I know nobody thought that would be the case, but it's the case. So likewise, I would say your children, your spouse, your husbands, wives, co-workers, teammates, and anything that you do, everybody should have this critical life-saving intervention knowledge, because that's what's going to be most important at the end of the day. Not sending down rounds downrange, but saving a life, as you said earlier.
That's a big thing. My sons and daughters, I'm always showing them how to do this and that, because I'm the primary caregiver in my house. But what if I go down? Who's going to help me? So,
absolutely.
Take over, so.
They're going to be standing around like everybody else is.
Yeah.
So hey, come on, a little help.
And that's the thing. So this is to get everybody confident, knowledgeable, because another little fact I want to release about the data that we now have is that a lot of people, even if they make it to the hospital after having significant trauma, losing a lot of blood, etc., a lot of people still die 3 weeks later in the hospital. A lot of people wonder why that is because once you've lost so much blood, even if I stop it later on, once you've lost so much blood, your body starts pulling that blood to the organs that it needs, your brain, your heart, your lungs, and you end up getting like renal failure, organ end failure, and dying 3 weeks later in the hospital, when if that intervention was done at the point of injury, you were standing right next to that person, they get hurt. The time it takes for EMS to arrive, 5, 10, 15 minutes, it's in that 1 to 3 minutes that makes the major difference. So, and a lot of times it's the bystander that's present when somebody gets hurt. It's not EMS. Rarely is there a police officer or a paramedic or a med tech that's around when someone gets hurt. It's usually a family member a friend, a coworker, somebody on the side of the highway with a fully involved wreck or accident. So the goal is to get as many people trained up in this stuff so that by the time EMS gets there, you're not looking at a trap. You've increased survivability, you know, and that's what we go for.
So my question is, the second part of the training, I know it's a little bit more physical, right? So is there like a requirement as far as, I don't know, I got a crazy feedback. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah. So is there like a physical requirement to take that?
While we don't have standards, sorry to go there, but while we don't have a set standard, okay, of physical requirements, I do need to put out there and hope everybody realizes that this is it is physically demanding, because it goes over the full scope of TCCC. That's care under fire, that's tactical field care, and, you know, casualty evacuation. There's rounds going, there's people that you have to move, that you have to carry with your own strength and weight. There's all your gears on, you're moving and shaking. It's really intense. So when you come out to Tech Med 102, come out with the mindset that it's going to be physically demanding. You're going to be tired. You're going to be hot. You're going to be uncomfortable. But that's what we need you guys to experience, so that when the time comes, it's not your first time feeling this way. Stress inoculations and all.
So yeah, I'm a 61-year-old man, so I'm gonna have to be in shape when I get out there and make sure I don't kill myself.
Oh yeah. Oh no, now you'll be fine. Once again, we've never had anybody get hurt or pass out to it, but your gear will be on, you know, your boots suited and booted, rifles and pistols.
That sounds good.
Medical equipment, you know, so yeah, have that consideration for 102.
Sounds good.
And how long is 102? Is it a day or?
Yes, it's a day-long course. If combined together, it's a 2-day course, 101 and 102 as it was originally designed. Okay. But now it's broken up to where it's 2 days, a day apiece. 101 being 1 day, 102 bright and early, 1 day.
Gotcha.
So do you come across people that are, as soon as they see blood, they panic or pass out? How do you deal with that?
Are you talking about as far as in training? In
training, yeah. Someone asked the question, how did it get
Airway Dan?
Someone, yeah. I don't know if you can highlight his question, so Matt can read it.
No.
Just right there.
Okay. How can I get a family member to be more comfortable with seeing blood right now? They pass out. Oh, okay, great. All right. The passing out to blood response. That's something that surprised me just as much as it surprises you. Everybody reacts differently to the sight of blood. But as I was saying a little bit earlier, with crises, as far as a lot of blood, you'll never rise to the occasion. Neither will that person who's having the issue of blood. You will fall back on your training. So if you get trained up on these things, have these realistic, dynamic scenarios, you'll become conditioned to, even when the horrific happens, the most horrible thing happens, you will still sink down and fall back on your training. Good. So that's what I would recommend, is that they get out there and experience it and see it for themselves, allow themselves to process this. And when the time comes, they'll know what to do.
I want to tell a story real quick. I'm smiling because I always flash back to this story. You know, I have all this training in the field, this, that, and the other, and combat medic and scoop and run and stuff, blood and guts, ICU experience, yada, yada, yada. But one time, my daughter, who's 30 now, when she was a baby, she was in her stroller, right? So my wife at the time, I told her, you know, make sure you strap her in, because she likes to get up out of that stroller. So I walked to the bedroom because we were getting ready to leave. I had to get something. I heard, blam! And I run out, and she had leaned up on the back of the stroller. And apparently when she fell and hit her chin and bit her tongue 3/4 of the way across. It was just hanging by just a little sliver, right? So Mr. EMT, Mr. Medic, Mr. all this, I'm standing there, and then the blood just like, and I'm like, I literally wait for like, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. My wife is like laughing at me. Oh, Mr. Medic, Mr. Lewis. So it took me like 20, 30 seconds to calm the heck down.
Right.
Afterwards, it was like we got to the hospital. They, switched it up and everything. We got to, we took our emergency stuff and got her to the hospital. But it was like the initial response always clicked back to that. It's like you said, you never know how you gotta react.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's bad.
Think about that. It's like you don't know. I've had my hands. You've seen all that, but when it's your daughter and you see the tongue hanging down, the blood's coming out, you're like, So.
And I want to touch on that a little bit more. How he was talking about his daughter. Now, in TCCC, especially in 102, that's a very important point that we go over. When it's someone that you love or you care about that's been hurt, we have responses that we naturally do. For example, during I don't know if you guys remember the Vegas shooting, where the guy was up on that high building. I forget what floor he was on. And he was raining down on those guys. There were actually law enforcement undercover off duty and medical professionals, paramedics that were there present at the time.
Gotcha.
A lot of their family members were hurt, and in the hail of gunfire, these guys were just laying over their family members, worried about them, not paying attention to anything. You just went into this bubble where nothing else existed.
Okay.
Is that the right thing to do? No. It's natural for us to do these things because they're people we love, but their chances of making it dramatically go down when we don't respond properly. In a situation such as a care under fire situation, the best thing that you could do for your family member would, instead of hovering over them at that point, would be to get those guys to some cover.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Or better yet, if you can locate where that person is, you can put some rounds down that way, keep their head down, mitigate the threat so that you can safely treat your patient. In the midst of all this, these guys are getting rained down upon, and they're getting injured right along with their family members. So I just wanted to touch on that because you brought up a good point. You react completely different when it's your family member, your daughter, your spouse. And this training that we have right here shows you how to react outside of what you would naturally do to have the best possible outcome and increase survivability.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that.
I know everybody had combat training, medical training at some point in your careers. Not me, but here's the question. Do you have training like if somebody's finger is blown off or something like that is missing where you know how to bandage the person and
was that are you talking a particular injury like an amputation is what
like amputation or blown off finger? Because it's a two-way community. Just the other day, one of the individuals hurt his finger, I think it is. So it just got me to thinking. I know stop the bleed is up to a certain point, but an actual missing appendage, like, is that training included into what you do?
Yes, absolutely. Amputations, fully and partial. That is, those considerations are entered into the training. To be honest with you, a lot of the interventions that you would do end up being the same. I don't care if it's a partial finger amputation, full amputation, leg, arm. 9 times out of 10, I'm just gonna see all that blood and throw a tourniquet on that, especially in a tactical environment, because you don't have that much time to you don't have as much time to deal with medical interventions when you're in a stressful situation. A lot of times you just need to do what works fast, get them out of there. So as far as amputations, blowing off fingers, legs, yes, we do show you how to treat those in any scenario that you encounter them, whether it be a range accidents, because we get a lot of those, whether it be a hunting accident, just a car accident, any mechanism of injury. You apply these principles that you learn that could be applied across the board, from a combat situation to just driving to work, and there's a car fully on flames and fire, and it's the car ahead of you, which is your wife with your kid. How would you respond? Something's blown off. Yes, we do go over that.
That's good to know. That's good training. Okay. Anybody else got a question?
Well, I have one. In the event where you have somebody, like you say, shooting at you, who would take cover fire while you're dressing? Who would you prefer? I mean, do you handle the situation and give out fire, or just focus on the person itself?
All
How would
right,
you?
right. That's a good question. So there are three phases to TCCC. As I was saying a little bit earlier, there's care under fire, there's tactical field care, and there's casualty evacuation. When you're in a situation where you're actively engaged, the threat is
Yeah.
still very much present, fully involved, really going. The first thing you want to do is gain fire superiority before treating any patient or a family member, a friend, or whoever it may be. You need to mitigate that threat. If that means you and your buddies, you taking charge and directing fire, locating where that is, getting people behind cover while you take care of that threat, then so be it. If it takes two of you, one of you, all of you, so be it. Once you have handled that and they're not in immediate danger where it moves over to the tactical field care phase, you can start directing who's going to hold security, which I guess I would pick who's more suited for that, and who's going to be working on the patient. That's going to be something that you'll find out what you would do in training. A lot of this stuff isn't cookie cutter. It's just to show you all the different scenarios and possibilities, and you're going to have to choose oftentimes what's the best course of action with medicine and with life-saving interventions. There's a lot of thought that you're going to have to put into it yourself of what you're going to decide to do that only you can decide. Like, when am I going to focus on this patient as opposed to the guy that's shooting at me? That's mostly going to fall on you after following these guidelines. You know, you're going to have to make a decision,
Okay, we got a question here from Zach. How would you have handled the Kentucky ballistics incident?
The Kentucky ballistics incident, I'm not familiar with that. What's
Basically, this gentleman, he was out at a range, isolated out in the country with his father, who's the only other person there. He had a 50 caliber snap round that basically exploded out of chamber, took the end cap and drove it back into his eye socket, and also severed his pulmonary vein, not pulmonary vein. Geez, my AMP just left my brain, but had a bleed on his neck from his vein to his neck, and basically was just out in the middle of nowhere. He was bleeding out in the middle of nowhere. So
the mechanism of injury. There was a bleed right here at the neck,
bleed,
and an internal bleed.
It was a venous bleed.
A venous bleed. External venous bleed. The eye too, and the hand.
Eye socket got crushed, and plus he had a penetrating chest injury as well.
Okay, well, there's several interventions.
So yeah, a lot of things going on.
There is. So what we got? That's a very good question, and I'm glad you brought up something that has multiple interventions that need to be done. At TechMed, we have an algorithm that we like to use, the March algorithm. A lot of people are familiar with it, or the PMarch-P algorithm, and that algorithm prioritizes what interventions need to be done in what order to increase survivability. The first of that is massive hemorrhaging. You're more likely to succumb to your injuries if you don't take care of massive bleeding. So I would take care of that. Any of those that I could identify, I would locate those and take care of the massive bleeding first. That's the stuff that's going to matter ultimately in them making it in that 1 to 3 minutes. After that, it moves over to things like the airway, respiratory circulation. So as far as sucking chest wounds, that would probably one of the last things I would take care of. To be honest with you, I'd be worried about that neck. If there was you said it exploded in the hand. So if there was
don't believe he had too many. He had a broken bone in his hand, so he did have
Okay,
some.
so I'd be worried about those bleeds coming from these arteries and veins and vessels that come from these extremities, especially if they were pretty significant. I would take care of that sucking chest wound, that penetrating chest wound. Secondly, and lastly, I would take care of that eye. The reason why I say that is, and I'm glad you asked that, is because a lot of times we can get sucked in on stuff that just looks nasty to us. We just see something that looks bad and we zero in on it, but that is not the thing that's going to matter. Most importantly, the clock's running on these interventions in that order. You need to take care of it from first to last. Does that kind of make sense, right?
And the thing is, can you explain why you have time on those sucking chest wounds? Because a lot of people like to focus on those as the first priority. Can you explain why and how you have time on that?
Yes, absolutely. So, this just I don't want to insult anybody's intelligence here, but I'm gonna throw a question out here. Does anybody know about how long it takes for you to bleed out from a? Let's just say you have a complete cut of the femoral. About how long you have?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Any
Or
any other? 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Okay.
30 seconds.
I go with 30. Who said 30 seconds?
I did.
Yeah. So I like to go with 30 seconds. Now, is that every time? No. There are instances where 30 seconds is all it takes if you have a complete cut. And the reason why I say that is because once you start losing so much blood from femoral, arterial bleed, even some bad venous bleeds, you'll start to lose consciousness really quick, and within a good 20 seconds, you go from being able to have these motor skills to barely being able to manipulate or operate these things because you done lost so much blood. So the first thing that I would take care of, with that being said, is the massive hemorrhaging, massive bleeding. The airway. Does anybody have an idea about how long you could go with an obstructed airway or trouble having your airway? I don't even need to answer that question. You know how long you can go without breathing. That's something that we would take care of immediately after we get in there, find that massive bleeding, which you'll be able to identify going back. If you look at something and it strikes your brain that that's a lot of blood, you don't need to ask yourself, is this venous, is this arterial? That doesn't matter. You would do the same thing. Whoa, that's a lot of blood right there. I'm going to dive right into there and go ahead and control that bleeding, take care of those life-threatening bleeds, because that'll take them out the quickest. And like we mentioned earlier, they can pass away in the hospital weeks later if you don't get that under control. Secondly, I would dive into the airway for obvious reasons. Respirations, make sure they got, they're breathing, they're getting oxygen to their brain and everything, because that'll take you out. As far as the chest, we were talking about with these chest seals and penetrating chest injuries, a lot of times people hone in on that, but it takes a little while for the tension pneumothorax to develop to where it can push on your heart, a lung collapse, push on your heart, and send you into cardiac arrest. You have a bit of time to take care of that. It could be 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, depending on the mechanism of injury. But you don't have that much time with the massive hemorrhaging or the airway. So that's why we have this algorithm, so that when you come into a crisis and adrenaline starts pumping, you can go down that list and take care of what's most important to increase their survivability down to the last thing, and not get that thing backwards, because that might be the last thing you ever do if you get it wrong and you go backwards.
Thank you, sir.
Now, another question. When you make a first aid kit, how would you go about making your first aid kit to carry around to treat some of these symptoms and injuries like you're giving out to us?
Good question. So I'm gonna start out by saying that there's a lot of stuff in people's trauma kits. It's because there's a difference between like your first aid, or as you would call it, and your trauma, your crisis interventions. There's a lot of stuff that I would forego, and we go over that in the class too. What equipment that you should have and what you should leave at the store. The things we're focusing on is life-threatening injuries. So with that being said, I would only keep the things, since you're carrying these things, and TACMED 102 shows you that, you know, ounces equal pounds, pounds equal pain. You're only going to have, what you can carry. So it's very limited. I would keep that to a minimum. The life-saving things would be tourniquets, for starters. And back in Iraq with Marines, we used to carry even upwards of 8 of these things on us, whether it be on us or spread loaded amongst the team. Here, you got 2, I got 6. We would carry upwards of 8 of those things. Secondly, I would make sure that I had hemostatic agents.
Gotcha.
We've come a long way. I want to say back in anybody seen Black Hawk Down?
Yeah.
Or who has not seen Black Hawk Down? All right, everybody. They could have really benefited from this stuff back then. We've gotten a lot of data because of how horrible that went, and we've learned a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. And we've learned that if they would have pneumothorax, if they would have had this, they would have been able to increase the survivability of a lot of people that otherwise would have passed. This stuff is really good at controlling the bleeding, causing coagulation and clots. Let me see. Pressure dressings. These things work. The reason why I still deal with these is because they're very multiple purposes, because the elastic band on it, just different uses you can use it for. I can take care of junctional bleeds with these things. I can get lingual with it. I can just cover a wound or an injury, keep it sterile, safe, and clean. If I need to convert a tourniquet, if earlier you guys were talking about an austere environment situation where the guy was out bleeding out far away from society, well, when you're out in society like that, the answer for how long can you leave a tourniquet on? First of all, does anybody know? Like civilian. So the civilian answer is 2 hours. Military answer is 4 hours. Okay. After that, you have to convert the tourniquet, for trying to keep your limbs. This was perfect for that. If he would have been out there and he had a partial or full amputation, the tourniquet's on, the bleeding's controlled, you put on the pressure dressings in different areas where they need to go. You can actually convert those tourniquets, alleviate all that pressure from the tourniquets, and save a wound, save a limb, which is converting with these things. Also,
basically what he did, just FYI, he put his thumb in the wound while his father was driving him back to the hospital, which was like 15 minutes away.
And that might be what you need to do. We call that a stopgap or direct pressure. Yeah. That's stopgap. And that's a natural response. That's good that he does it. Even as a baby, the first time you've ever hurt yourself or cut yourself, the first thing you do is, ah. That's a good thing. That's your body telling yourself, I need to put pressure on that and keep as much blood in me as I possibly can. Because we know that the goal is to keep as much blood inside of you as possible. As you start losing those red blood cells, all kind of complications happen. So if putting a finger in, or direct pressure, as we call it, is all that you can do to keep the blood in until you get to the hospital, by all means, do it. I would have my gear with me, and I would probably be packing it, and then putting a dressing on it after that finger, just long enough for me to get to these supplies, or for my buddy to be able to replace my finger with these so we can free up our hands and work on other things. But if that's all you can do is a stopgap, direct pressure, absolutely go for it. Keep that blood in and try to make it there.
Okay. Let's go to answer Zach's question real quick. I think he was asking what a pneumothorax is.
Okay, pneumothorax. So with like chest wounds, penetrating chest wounds, you'll find a lot with gunshot wounds. You know, we all train center mass, shots to the chest, etc. That's when you're going to run into a lot of your pneumothorax, tension pneumothorax. That's when air pneumo, right? And thorax gets into this cavity over here, okay? After a while, because lungs aren't like we think they are, they're kind of spongy and they don't have anything outward pressure going on. So once pressure starts coming in here, it just kind of, your lung starts folding to the air pressure that's coming in. So your job for sealing that chest is to keep air from entering into those spaces, pushing down on your your lungs, squeezing it to one side, collapsing and causing a cardiac arrest. So that's what pneumothorax or tension pneumothorax is. And that's what you're looking for.
And as you said, that takes time to happen depending on respiration, size of wound. So that's why it's not always an immediate, put something on it. You have to address some of those other issues. You have, like you said, at least 15 minutes to kind of address that and assess, what else is going on. So it's not like, I got to do that now. Yeah, we have to get to it, but, triage them accordingly.
Yep. And another thing to get on top of that, the March algorithm, like we were saying before, is that people do tend to hone in on what they consider to be the worst, the nastiest. If you follow the guidelines, you'll skip over those things that you would have naturally probably went to without training, and you'll start going straight to things that matter. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And AAF has a question here.
What can you use to improvise if you don't have any kind of first aid items? Oh, okay. Improv. That's also a part of TACMed 102. And we go over everything from improvised occlusive dressings, chest seals, improvised tourniquets, all the things that we have, these commercial products, tourniquets, Cat 7s, the chest seals. Once you understand the principles of how they work, how they perform, you can use your everyday items to apply those same principles and techniques to get the same job done. For instance,
so like socks, like he's basically like saying, Woody, I think, could you use your socks, your wallet, your ID card for items like that?
Yeah, depending on the intervention, I'll go over a couple of those. So for instance, for an occlusive dressing, if you don't have a chest seal, for example, a lot of us, when we first were going through back in the day, they were teaching us, and it works. Duct tape is an awesome thing. We would just take any card, whether it be like our ID cards, and some tape, slap it right on over there and seal that area up, and that would work. A lot of people have their wallets, their IDs. A lot of people carry tape, or if you don't, you should carry duct tape on you, because that stuff is useful. Saran wrap, plastic wrap, anything that'll cause a seal, to keep that air out, which a lot of things can do that. Like I said, tape, something solid and flat, or plastic wrap. For a tourniquet, for example, when I first came in, this is all we were using. We didn't have the cats, it's come a long way. And this stuff still works. As a matter of fact, when they first started coming out, we didn't really like them. They used to break all the time, and that's the worst thing. You want something breaking or snapping while somebody's bleeding out. They used to snap, break, and fail all the time. We come to find out that during that time, they were like the Chinese made. A lot of them had made it into circulation. And the U.S. military just likes to buy cheap. So whoever whoever has it for the right price. And those things were failing on us. So I will never tell anybody to forego cravat, or a lot of guys like the tactical schmogs or bandanas, or women's silk scarves that they wear. That stuff is great. Silk, and just any non-stretchable material. And you can make a tourniquet with just this and a stick or a tent stake or any sturdy about this long windless. There's so many things you can make it out of, and your brain will come to that as soon as you understand the principles of how they work. You'll be able to look around and see what you can use.
Do-rags work really well.
Do-rags, t-shirts, they really do. As long as it's not stretchy.
Improvise.
A lot of these things improvise, they work. And once you understand these principles, like I said, you'll be able to look around and see what you got and say, this is all I need to twist this, to do this, to occlude this. You'll be good to go.
Good. Do you guys sell med bags or provide that type of equipment for sale?
We haven't as of yet. I'm glad you asked us that. A lot of people have been asking us that question, if we would give our setup. At the course, we tell exactly how we have our bags set up. But as of right now, we don't offer any bags or equipment for sale.
So basically, we should have, when we contact you, we should have certain items to bring with us, or y'all will have that?
We have all those things, but we have a packing list that comes out once you register, that gets sent out. And in the packing list, it'll be the things that's preferable for you to have. And the reason why we want you to bring your own stuff is because it's your stuff. We need you to get used to your gear, just like your own pistol, your own rifle, your own flak, your own Kevlar, your own boots. You need to get used to manipulating and working with your very own equipment. So we do have people bring, their own stuff, but that's just for the purpose of them being familiar with theirs. At the courses, we do have everything that you need to train with and get familiar.
Okay. That's good to know. That is really good to know.
Yeah, but AAS in the chat. How's up, Tony? What's up?
Yes, shout out to everybody, and please hit the like button.
Mr. Roger Stewart, Hot Top Tony, I think I saw him in there.
Yeah, Jay Smith, shout out. Ace from BK.
A pimp named
CR42.
It's always a good one.
Gilly Suit Mask, Ro. Shout out to everybody. Noah Wood.
People.
Yeah. But thank you, man. This is so what we need really here. This is
definitely this information, because it's life-saving stuff that, like as you pointed out to before, we'd hate to be in a position to where we could have helped and just didn't know what to do. That's like the worst feeling, to be just helpless, So.
And I want to touch on that again. Let me emphasize that. The speed of a crisis going down, that'll fade. But God, when I tell you, and a lot of people who's just their friends, buddies, teammates who passed, boy, I tell you, the thing that stands out to you that will last you a lifetime, that will last you far after the person's injured, is the questions of what you could have done better. I don't care who you are, even if you are trained, you'll ask yourself, and you'll beat yourself up like, I could have been a little faster. I could have did this, I could have did that. If that's the last thing you want to be asking yourself and following you, is that, man, I could have took that course, but I didn't want to spend that money, or I'd rather have went to go buy this amount in bullets and go to the range. $250, $275 is not that much money to learn how to save your family and friends, the people you care about, your loved ones. So I just want to stress that one more time. That does not go away. The regret of what you could have done better. And I guarantee you, if God forbid something ever happens to anybody, they will look back on this day right here and say, dang, I could have taken that course, and I was right next to her when she cut herself with that knife. I was right there when that accident happened in the car up ahead, and EMS just took too long. I should have just been there with my gear, with my stuff. She would have been fine. That will never go away. Save yourself, spare yourself, save your family, your friends, and I don't know what else to say on that part. That's just a real, where the rubber meets the road is right there.
Yeah, Airway has one, and I think electronic tourniquet would be the reason why they don't have that come out, because I think something like that has to be calibrated. And if it's not calibrated, it'll be a lawsuit.
Liability issue, definitely. Put too much pressure on it, let pressure off. So people are probably hesitant to put something out like that. Not saying it can't be done. The technology is there.
Yeah, because the calibration would be: is it adult? Is it for a child? Is it for a person with high blood pressure?
It's like there's a lot to figure out there.
And I'll touch on that too. Tourniquets are always about doing more with less. All right.
Yeah.
The ideal is to do more with less. When you start adding electronics and things that need batteries, you don't want to add more failure points to your life-saving interventions. Okay, for with like this tourniquet right here, it only has one fail point, and that's the fact that it's made out of Velcro. So if it ever comes undone, you have a loose tourniquet. Other than that, it's perfectly fine. Once you start adding batteries, electronics, you're talking about austere environments where people find themselves wet, cold, extended evacuation times. You don't want that time that you really need to do an intervention for it to fail because of electronic or whatever. You can do the most everything you need to do with something as simple as your Schmog t-shirt, cravat, or one of these right here. They work fine. So the problem is it boils down to training. Okay. During the Boston bombing, if everybody remembers that, there was a lot of people who came in to the hospital with improvised tourniquets. They had them on. People were pulling them, putting them on. 100% of those were ineffective.
Wow.
Not because they don't work. Not at all.
They didn't
Not
know.
because they don't work. Improper technique. So what a lot of people end up doing is not tightening it tight enough because tourniquets suck. We got to get past that. They hurt. They suck. They're not comfortable. And when we train with tourniquets, oftentimes we stop way before it becomes uncomfortable for us. And like I said, you don't rise to the occasion. You sink to your training. So however you trained, those people were tying them the same way that they understood, not tight enough, and they failed to obtain bleeding control. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Any more questions out there?
So Peacock Choppers, how's it going? CR 4200, Calvin.
Go ahead and fire them off. I'm all ears.
A lot of good information, man. It's you can't put a price on this information. You talked about the price point for the class, and again, ask yourself, how much would you pay to have a loved one that passed away, and you couldn't help? How much would you pay to have them back again? So
I couldn't have said it better myself. I'm glad to hear that. That makes sense. How much would you pay?
True.
How much would you pay? Well, I'll tell you, we offer it at a very affordable price.
That's a very, I heard that.
Some of a lot of our peers, a lot of our peers in that, some of our buddies and a lot of these companies, some of our companies are people that we actually knew that we deployed with back in the day. A lot of them are charging upwards of $2,000, $1,000 for these courses. I know when we took CTM or OAMS, which is TCCC combined, that was about a $5,000, course, the way we train it. Because we do live fire, we do live tissue. You get to see pork with holes through them and all kind of stuff. So at that price point, it's really kind of ridiculous to have $250 in bullets that you might not ever use, but you may have a loved one, God forbid, passing right in front of you, and you can do something about it fairly easily too.
So basically, we're gonna go through the whole war scenario, rounds, the whole 9 yards.
Yes, TACMED 102 to be specific, and 101. We don't spend too much time on that. We're getting you confident and being able to do these interventions before adding all those stressors in there. But 102 is fully involved across the board. You'll be geared up. There'll be all the scenarios, all kind of interventions. We don't just do medical. You'll actually also learn how to respond in a firefight as well. That's with fire and maneuver as a team, cover, all that stuff. We go over that in the course. The reason why we can do that is because myself and my senior instructor, we have similar backgrounds, so it's a matter of cross training for us. One didn't go without the other. Most importantly is being able to put accurate, effective fire downrange to mitigate that threat so that you can treat that patient. Otherwise, you and everybody else might find out that you have way more casualties than you needed to have. So we do go over that quite extensively. You know, that is live fire, there's rounds going, it is geared up, and you will know how to treat all the casualties that you would expect to treat in war or in a war type scenario. Yeah, we go over all that, and you can scale it down to be anything: car accident, boating accident. The interventions are all the same.
X, BCAT chapters, that's true. It's a simple tourniquet.
Mm-hmm. Yep, a simple tourniquet. Now with tourniquet, just a little information on that. How he called it a simple tourniquet, that's all it really is. It's really simple. If you got the techniques and procedures down, it's not hard to do. Okay, all you're essentially doing is mashing muscle against those vessels, against bone. That's it. That's all you're doing. So it's not hard to learn it and teach it, but it is easy to do these things wrong if you haven't practiced it, trained with it, and learned how to do it the proper way so you don't develop any bad habits, like not tightening it tight enough, not proper placement. As long as you haven't developed those bad habits and you've worked and you've trained, you'll do just fine. It's really simple.
Gotcha. Okay, Airway Dan has one. Post that up.
Oh, where you got South Florida? That's awesome. So our company started in North Florida in Jacksonville. I'm a Texas guy myself. I'm from Houston, Texas. After getting out, I settled over in Jacksonville, Florida area where I got up with some of the guys. So yeah, we have right now, currently, we went on a campaign and we have land where we train at in California, Northern California to be exact, in Oklahoma, South Oklahoma, near the Dallas border, just past the Dallas, Texas border, and then in North Florida. Outside of those three places, we're a mobile training team. So if you can accommodate us and have for instance, 102 needs to be austere field environment. If you have that, we can and will travel to you. The whole team will pack up and bring everything we need to you. If you don't have that, you can go to the website and see what location we're going to be at and what's closest to you, plan accordingly, and come out to one of our own areas.
Okay, so 3 locations. So I'm in San Antonio, Texas, so I'd probably just head up north.
Oklahoma, we just call it kind of Dallas because it's literally 2 hours once we leave Dallas. We're 2 hours after leaving Dallas. We're parking the car and we're going. We're geared up. So
sounds good.
Okay, I just put out the link up in the chat. Make sure that's right.
Is this a certified course when you complete it?
Excuse me?
Is it a certified course when you complete it? Are you certified in what you're teaching?
Our senior instructor is right now finishing up getting his ability to give you the TCCC certificate. A lot of guys, I've been telling them to get this done for a while. A lot of time with guys like these that have been combat deployed, work in the ER for the past 10, 15 years. They think they don't need these things or care about these things, but not these days. So as of right now, there isn't a certificate, but he's currently taking the course to where that he can certify everybody with a certificate. But without these things, without a certificate, you're still going to do the same things. You're still going to say, yeah, you know what I mean? All these interventions are going to be the same. It's the skill that is most important that you get out of this. Most people, when they want a certificate of this, they're going to be, which one of our instructors is a contractor, where they go over, overseas to those environments, and you need these type of certifications, which is the reason why he's getting that. But as of right now, there's no certificate that comes with it.
Okay.
Are
So
there
what,
plans? Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So what kind of people do you see taking your training as of recently, like preppers or just military individuals, or like who do you see coming most?
I definitely see the prepper community coming the most right about now because it's the most relevant to what a lot of people got going on these days. United States is in a state that we're not sure of how things are going, so people are getting prepared. And besides acquiring the things that they need to acquire to be prepared, the skill set that's most important probably to preparedness after acquiring these things you need to is taking care of each other, a crisis medicine. So I really see the two, not just the 2A community, but the prepper community really being involved. That being said, we have a lot of ex-military guys, a lot of guys that have done this that haven't done it in a while, that want to get back out there, that either just miss it or need to brush up on their skills. Yeah, that was me, or need to brush up on your skills because you haven't used it in a while. Just like going back to range, they're perishable. So if you need to get back confident, reacquainted, those people are going to show up a lot too. Yeah, that's who I see. 2A prepper community. But like I said before, I recommend this for everybody, not just a particular community. Doesn't matter if you belong to any type of community. Your life is important, and your families and friends' lives are important. That's the bottom line at the end of the day. And how much is that worth? How much time is that worth for you? Is it worth taking a day off, 2 days off to get this information and know this stuff? Again, that's going to be something you're going to have to answer for yourself. I know my answer. That's why I keep this stuff on me, and I practice with this every day. I can tell you anything that we teach, we've done this more than once. Let's just say we've seen it. It works. I keep this stuff on me. I train with it. I'm in the house practicing with it, just like I would be when I'm drawing from the holster and clearing house at home bored. I still need to keep sharp, because what I find is if I don't mess with this stuff, I fumble with things. Things take longer. I forget. I have to question myself, like, what was this again? And that's the last thing you want to do when you're potentially bleeding out. That'll be the last thing you ever do, is wonder what you're supposed to be doing before the lights go out. And we don't want that.
Yeah, and everybody here, you can get those items for kfossurvival.com.
KFOS, yeah, definitely. Go see
kfossurvival.com.
Yeah, definitely. Go see KFOS. Get all that stuff, definitely.
So do you also have Narcan in your teaching? Someone had just mentioned Narcan. Is that part of the training as well?
Okay. Narcan. No. I think pretty much people know when we use Narcan or what it's used for, but like I said, we're not trying to turn people into paramedics and doctors or anything like that. We're just trying to teach you the stuff that you need for a crisis. And in most of those situations, Narcan is not going to be, something that you're going to need to pull out on your family member or friend. EMS usually gets in time to get you a Narcan. However, if that's something that you see your life is tailored, somebody that you might potentially need to use that for, go by all means, carry the medications you need to have and learn how to administer those things. But at our course, we don't go over Narcan.
Delray, I'm going to do a video. I was going to go this week and didn't have time, but a lot of that availability of Narcan you can get for free if you have like insurance. You can go to local pharmacies and they'll do that. You can contact your healthcare provider, and they can give you not only the medication but training on that, how to use it. I know I do have people in my family who have a potential of having to need that. So that's something that I want to have available since I am that primary provider. I also have a son who has peanut allergies. So we have to have those EpiPens and things available are some of the things that we need to have. So we're looking at doing that. So, but as you said, this course is perfect for, I think, everybody to handle, because you're likely to have that even an auto accident, penetrating injuries, auto accident, falling downstairs, tripping, hitting somebody, hitting their head, having excessive bleeds. We tend to focus on firearms, getting shot, getting stabbed. But there's so many ways that we can get injured. I can't count the number of ways. My daughter even got to the point, it's like, how come every time you go somewhere, you're always helping people and seeing accidents? And one time we were in New Orleans on a trolley, and it got sideswiped by a car.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Right.
right. With the EMP mode right just right there. So it happens all the time. Another time I'm, driving to see a drunk driver, he hits the side rail, is hanging off the side of the bridge. So, I mean, that's just two incidences that I, myself. So what are the odds? They're probably pretty good, more often than you would think. So,
Absolutely. Car accidents are the number one reason these days for application of a tourniquet. A lot of people don't know that. You're more likely to use this for a car accident than anything in your entire life. And it'll probably happen to you quicker than getting shot will. Just be realistic.
I just can't wait to do the live fire training.
I encourage everybody to do 102 because 102 is fun. 102 is fun. It's what I like to do.
That sounds like fun.
I realize that we have to employ the crawl, walk, run method for everybody, for beginners, intermediates, and professionals alike. So we have it set up this way. But I tell you, if I could just run be the guy that ran 102 all the time, I promise you I would never do 101. I would just spend all my time doing 102. I like putting on the gear. I like the screaming. I like the smoke going off. I like the booms. I like engaging targets. I like pulling people. I like assessing under these stressful conditions. I tell you, and that I get the most out of that, but so yeah, I tell you, that stuff is fun.
So, Doc, I got a question.
Get with it. I'm telling you, you'll see it for yourself. It's good stuff.
So, how big, as a group, we should come down? How many people?
Say again.
How many people y'all take in a group?
Okay. As of right now, we do 12 man. That's the limitation. It's 12. That's because one of our instructors right now is off doing contract work. So we like to have a proper student to instructor ratio when we're doing live fire stuff like that. We don't, we want to be more in control of that. So as of right now, with the staffing we have, we do 12-man courses right now.
Okay, is it seasonal? Or we can come anytime?
It's year round, and part of the reason why we started this campaign of acquiring land in different areas was, one, so that we could make it more convenient for people that lived closer to those areas, and two is the seasonal. When it's hot, super hot, I like to be out in Northern California where it's nice and cool to do my thing. I don't like to be in Florida. Same thing, vice versa. When it gets really cold, I like being in Dallas, Texas, Oklahoma area where it's a little bit warmer. So that gives options for people to choose their climate. The California branch is in the mountains, top in the mountains. So it gets cold. It's 5,000 and something feet up in the mountains. Okay. It's hard to breathe. Wildlife running around just because you got to get acclimated. It's fun. It's real fun stuff, guys. But as opposed to like Dallas or the South Oklahoma area, which is usually warmer, it's lower elevation, more bugs, but yeah, okay. You can go to any one of those places, and we're mobile.
Take that drive on down there.
Do you also do a training session with Locks and Loaded?
Locks and Loaded. He was just over. We were just hanging out together. I know Locks. He's actually lived right around the corner from me, probably like 10 minutes from me. So you can imagine,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've been invited out to go out there with Keith and them over on their land in Florida. I haven't been able to make it out during this time because I've been setting all this up for the course. But yeah, they get out there and they have fun. They do their thing. Yeah.
Okay. Make that trip out there to see you, Doc.
Now that I think about it, funny story. I got to bring that up with Locks. During the inception of this TechMed company, North Florida Tactical, originally locks was going to teach the firearms pistol portion of the course. So still got to get back with him or whatever like that, see what got going on. But yeah.
That's good.
Did we lose you?
Did we lose somebody?
Better.
We got everybody. Okay, good. That's good info. Yeah, we're gonna have to send a group down there. I'll be part of that group coming down there to visit you, man.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Look forward to it, man, for real.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sounding good. I don't want to be like a deer in the headlights, panicking while everything's going off. I need to jump in.
There you go.
Yeah.
Jump in, start directing. Hey, you move. You call
Yeah.
911. Put pressure right there.
There you go.
When you have this training, boom, you'll just do it.
Take
You won't even think no more. You're just like you freeze up. That's
Yeah.
only because you don't know what to do. Not even muscle memory wise, but by the time you leave and you continue to practice this afterwards, because like we said, it's perishable. So don't just come, take it, and then just put all your gear up. Practice these things, maintain your proficiency, and I guarantee you will impress yourself. You'll surprise yourself with how you move in a crisis. Autopilot will take over and you'll do your thing. What autopilot do you want to take over? You obviously want an informed and trained autopilot, so you'll be good to go. I promise you this stuff works, and I promise you'll be good.
It's good to have, for sure.
Good to know.
So what would be the next course you should take after taking your TechMed 101 and 102? What would be the follow-up course after that?
So after TechMed 102, what we have is this thing where which it's a cheaper price, and it's a program that we have where we invite people who have completed TechMed 101 and 102 back to actually serve as coyotes to new students, okay? Which is a fun thing on its own. Those are the actors. Those are the guys that are, when you're getting ambushed in 102, I don't want to give too much away, but you get to do the other side of the work. That's you're on the other side of the fence. That's when you get real minimalist. That's when you start using a lot of improvised stuff. So let's just imagine you're, for lack of better terms, you're something like an Iraqi in Iraq, and we're Marines. There's two sides, right? 101 and 102, imagine us as Army or Marines with our gear, our support, our backup. After 102, when we invite you back to become a coyote, imagine yourself being the insurgent, right? Those people need to save their lives too. They have buddies, they have friends, they have family, and they care about themselves equally as well. They don't have the same support systems though, so they have to be have more ingenuity with take care of themselves. That's when blending into your environment, carrying things like these that don't make you a target designators, teaching you how to blend in with normal society and still have all these interventions in place for whatever reason and purpose you may need to be able to do that. So I would recommend, after completing 101 and 102, to look back for these refresher courses, which allows you to come back, keep your proficiency up, because as we update and get new information, which this data is always changing. You know, one day tourniquets are bad, the next day, one day it's good, then it's the devil, then it's good again once new data comes out and people are smarter than they really should be or whatever. So we encourage that you come back so that you can keep up with your proficiency, just like going to the range. You can also have the opportunity to become somewhat of like a teacher in that, which helps you further advance your skills, because whenever you're teaching it to somebody else, it does something to your brain where it stores a little bit differently in your head, making you that much more proficient. So as of right now, I would just focus on 101, 102, and then keep coming back to get your proficiency.
That being said, at some point, do you see having like an instructor's course?
Excuse me?
At some point, do you see yourself having an instructor's type course?
Okay, great. So we're looking to expand, right? And I'm giving away a little secret here, but that'll more than likely come from the Coyotes instructors will more than likely in the future be pulled from students that excel or show an aptitude or extreme interest, because we want to be everywhere. We don't want, at the end of the day, we don't want for people to have to travel very far if we can avoid it. So as we expand, we'll have people that we certify. That's why we have one of our instructors right now taking care of that, to become Coyotes instructors, to where they can, in fact, participate as often as we have these courses in their respective areas, run these courses, get their training in, and, you know, comes with opportunities.
Good
Yes.
stuff. Good stuff.
That's awesome.
Here's one.
Someone signing up for the code. The discount code is DOC.
Dog.
Okay. That's a good one. There is actually a promo code I forgot to mention. I put out an announcement. Carbon Q, I believe you may have got it, may not, because you're a member. For all members of people that sign up, there's a promotion code being released for 15% off. Only the members can see it. So if you don't get it, it's don't get the message, it's because you haven't signed up or downloaded the little app to become a member. But if that's what I wanted to get into too. If you go to the website, become a member on it, you can take advantage of all the promotions we do send out, because we do offer 15% off here and there. We do have updates on where we're going to be. So if we happen to be coming out to, let's just say, near you in Dallas or in South Oklahoma, you can say, oh, wait, I just got the notification. They're going to be here at this time, this date. I can plan my life accordingly, or I can decide if I can make it or not, or if I need to move something around, instead of finding out, you know, the day before and saying, oh, I wish I would have seen this. This is right. You know, who knows when they're going to be right back over here. So definitely would encourage becoming a member. And for the promo codes, as you mentioned earlier, that's where you'll find it. It's funny. There is one right now. It's not Doc, but there is one.
And it's free to sign up on the website, right? The website is free to sign up. It's free to sign up on the website. Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. Totally free to sign up on. Yep, absolutely.
There's the website.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there he goes. It's in the chat right there. www.northfloриdatactical.com. Right. So check us out over there. I'm working. I do a lot of stuff on the site, so sometimes it's a little glitchy. Don't mind it. Just check out, see what we got going on. You'll see the available course dates on there at northfloриdatactical.com, like I said earlier. But if you want to get the alerts and the notifications and really be on top of it, so you can be more in control of your schedule, sign up to become a member, so you'll have that tool. Also, we do that's where we chat and we do our communications in as in the members, so we can speak to each other in a manner, in a form, more privately, and plan and schedule and coordinate as members easier than me just putting something broad out there. So if you want to be involved in those discussions, if you want to see what we're planning, scheduling, or you just want to communicate back and forth, that's where I'm at all the time. You'll always see online, hit the chat button, and you'll be talking to me or one of my instructors directly all the time. So any questions in planning, scheduling, or anything that you want to do, you might have something that you want to customize. You might want to have us come down mobily to go do something for you guys. Just hit us up as a member in those messages, and we'll take care of that. We'll coordinate.
This sounds amazing.
Shout out to Guns in a Hookah.
Yeah.
What's up, brother? Double roll. Saw double roll up in there.
Yeah, we got a lot of people here. Make sure you hit the like button.
And they can follow you on Instagram at North Florida Tactical.
Yes. The Instagram, North Florida Tactical. It's a lot of visuals there. Come check it out. You'll get an idea of some of the stuff we do, but not everything. But definitely give us a follow. I put a lot of our updated information or what we got going on goes on the Instagram first, often, before it goes anywhere else. So if you give us a follow over there, it'll be easy for us to stay abreast too.
Ooh.
AAF, he actually does a tourniquet with your, I think it was your belt, and you in a piece of cloth, and you tied it in
Oh,
a knot.
the most recent one,
Yeah,
probably out here in California. I
yeah,
did an improvised
yeah.
tourniquet with this right here. Yeah, I sure did. Yeah, that's on there. That's the most recent one. Mhm.
Do you prep, by the way? Do you prep?
Say again.
Yes.
Do I prep?
Yeah.
I'm into prepping. I'm not where I would like to be. I'm not where I would like to be. That's something that I need to brush up on and work on. That's why I'm glad that you invited me to that to the last time you guys were going, because I saw the community of people discussing these important things. I see Still Standing doing the same thing with his preparedness, and I can't even express myself how important that is to be prepared, because that's what ultimately is what I'm providing for you guys as well with TACMed, is being prepared. So
Yeah.
that's invaluable, and I myself need to start getting myself more on board and upping my game in the preparedness field or whatever. So I do think it is important. I do prep, but I'm not where I would like to be. I need more stuff.
Thank you, Delray Dan.
Thank you, Delray. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Delray Dan. Appreciate you, boss.
Thank you so much, because I think it's very vital what you're providing for us, and I just love it when the community comes together and we all learn from each other. So I'll be coming out there.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah,
All right.
Oh, and this is not your last time on here either, Doc. So get ready.
Oh, I'm coming back, y'all. I'm coming back. I love it. I
Appreciate you,
love the
guys.
Oh,
vibes.
yeah.
Appreciate you, man.
I love the community.
This was his first live, man.
Was it?
What?
Oh, wow.
First time going live. So
Yeah, guys, I've never been on live before ever in my life. Never. I've never been on my own live, on somebody else's live. Never. This is a first for me, guys. So I
You
had a
did
great
great,
time. I had a
man.
blast, you guys. Really did.
Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate it.
yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for everybody that showed up and here, and
Everybody in the chat, Asian Black, thank you. Appreciate you.
Revival Saturday.
Urban Gun Review.
We'll wrap it
appreciate
up.
you.
Everybody's good to go. Thank
Bye,
you,
everybody.
Doc. Black Poindexter, Carbon Q. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks so much, everybody. Bye. Bye, everybody.
All right.
Everybody be good.
Thank you.
Peace.